Consumers want to know the facts about the products they buy, but America's agricultural landscape is not easy to navigate. Between different companies, scientific advancement, government regulations, advertisement campaigns, and an unhealthy amount of myth and misconception, anyone would be hard-pressed to make sense of it. That's where Real Ag comes in. Kyle Bauer and the Real Ag crew bring you truthful, unbiased information about real agricultural concerns. From the producers who make your food, to the store where you buy the final product, and everything in between. This is Real Ag. Now, here's your host, Kyle Bauer.
Here on Real Ag, we spend a lot of time talking about the food that we eat. But what about the food that our food eats? Animal dietetics is our topic today on Real Ag.
Production of Real Ag is made possible by
Servitech has been helping producers across the Midwest make the planet more productive since 1975. We are proud sponsors of Real Ag, helping tell the story of how your food makes it to your plate.
The Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by farmers.
Let's take a moment to define what an animal nutritionist is.
In the animal field, we use the word nutritionist to describe what we commonly have in the human side as a dietitian. And really our jobs are very similar. We formulate and we manufacture and get diets that are complete in terms of the nutritional needs of that animal that they need on a daily basis.
The ruminant animal, comprised of beef and dairy cattle, have a four-chambered pregastric stomach that allows them to harvest materials that are high in cellulose. Cellulose materials can be browse, can be grass, can be alfalfa, can be anything. The presence of the microbial populations in the rumen allows the ruminant animal to derive energy and protein products from the fermentation of the breakdown of these cellulosic materials. Small, simple gutted animals, such as chickens and swine, have a digestive system comparable to humans. There is no fermentation, simply gastric and then into the small intestine.
Different types of animals, in terms of even within a species, require different diets to be fed to meet their daily needs. In fact, if we want to use swine as an example, a sow that is pregnant has a different requirements in her diet than after she farrows or has her litter of pigs when she's in lactation or milking those pigs while they're still on the sow. The diets change dramatically in terms of the amount of nutrients needed when a sow is in lactation compared to just when she's pregnant in the gestating period. Likewise, for baby pigs, once they're weaned and just 3 weeks old, those diets are made to contain milk products, as an example, specialty protein sources that are more highly digestible because the digestive system of that baby pig is not as advanced as one that is older. So we make specific diets for it immediately after weaning, those first few weeks of its life. As it starts to get older, and once it gets to about 4 to 5 weeks of age, that diet then changes once again and then becomes our cereal grain and protein source, and the most typical protein source is soybean meal that's used in our swine diets. And then we will take from the time that pig is about 25 pounds until it's marketed at about 280 pounds, it'll be fed again a series of approximately 5 to 7 different diets based on its individual weight. And we call this phase feeding, or providing the specific needs of that animal given its weight.
Animal nutrition is a very scientific field.
Animal diets are made to meet the nutritional needs of an animal each day. The way that this is done is over decades. Research has been done with animals to determine what their exact nutritional needs are for the various vitamins, minerals, the amount of protein that we need each day or in the animal needs. And so over time we've been able to develop the different recommendations or the daily requirements that an animal needs to have in its complete feed that we provide to it.
The composition of the diet, the energy content of the diet, is important. Everything comes together in terms of an adequate level of fiber in the diet to assure there is no rumen upset from the microbes, the animals being able to function, but also having adequate energy to allow that animal to attain fat deposition, which is a critical part of finishing, particularly during the last 2 months of an animal's finish period, if you will.
This is done through a variety of means. Certainly the land grant system employs a number of nutritionists through their animal science and other departments that spend time researching the various animal species to develop the recommendations. Also, the United States Department of Agriculture has employees that are trained scientists in the nutrition field that also are dedicated towards finding the nutritional requirements of the different ages and types of livestock as well.
Diets are typically built based upon what is available at that particular operation. In the case of beef cow or even dairy cow, a routine analysis are conducted of the forages that are purchased or raised on site at the farm or ranch. Around that analysis, we simply, what nutritionists do is look at least cost supplements that meet the needs at a minimal cost. And to do that, certainly a pen and paper can be done, but today's agriculture, many nutritionists rely on commercially available software to quickly assess the value of the diet and the least cost means of bringing in those nutrients for the animal's needs.
In order to develop how much nutrient content or how much vitamins, minerals, amino acids, which is the protein component, are in each specific ingredient, there's commercial labs that are able to do those analysis. We also can do those at different university labs. And what then is we put those into the ingredients, that helps us value them in terms of if in fact one ingredient contains more phosphorus or calcium, we can give it additional credit for that, and thus we can make a more economical diet by utilizing what is specifically in those ingredients based on at the time. Because we know each year, based on the harvest of corn, soybeans, wheat, whichever ingredients are going to be incorporated into the diet, the nutrient profile changes depending on the growing season it went through. So in order to make sure that we have the diet made as precisely and economically as possible, we go through a lot of testing after the new crop comes in each year.
How does animal nutrition impact human nutrition?
By feeding an animal different rations or different types of ingredients, we can in fact change the nutrient profile or the quality of that meat product that a consumer ultimately eats. One good example is vitamin E. It's been shown that we can, if we increase the amount of vitamin E in a finishing animal's diet that ultimately ends up on a consumer's plate, we can actually change and increase the amount of vitamin E that meat product actually has.
Well, generally, as an animal achieves its mature size, as a growing steer, the amount of energy provided in the diet and the deposition of fat has a marked impact on what we refer to as marbling, but intramuscular fat. And so the flavor, the juiciness, everything affiliated with meat quality improves as the animal deposits the seam fat, but more importantly, the intramuscular fat that's present in the animal's meat.
We can do other things from an ingredient standpoint of changing flavor. And in fact, we have to be more careful that we don't have an ingredient that has an off flavor. In fact, if we had fed high levels of fish oil or fish meal, we can in fact change and make pork or beef taste like fish. And most people that go to buy a steak aren't going to buy it to have it to taste like fish.
Feeding animals various ingredients can have a marked effect on the outcome of what is produced, be it egg yolks attaining a different color, the flavor of milk through clover, hay, various silages can have a taint, if you will, on the odor of the milk as it's produced. Certainly feeding flaxseed has been shown to affect the ability of meat to be stored. Heart-safe type products have been produced and is available to the general public.
So not only can we change for the positive, there are certain things we have to be careful of ingredient-wise we do not include that may actually change it to be a negative eating experience as well. Likewise, regardless of how we feed an animal in terms of meeting its nutrient requirements, whether we have it for high efficiency or whether it takes a little bit longer to get it to market if it wasn't nutritionally fed as adequate, it's important to point out that the food safety aspect or the safety of eating that meat product does not change. Food safety goes through the rigorous testing and observation of the United States Department of Agriculture once it goes into a harvesting facility. And so again, it's good that people realize that regardless how an animal was fed, it's not going to change the safety of eating that meat once it's on your consumer's plate.
What are the economics of animal nutrition?
Well, the consumer is affected by the animal's diet from the perspective of growing these animals in the most economical means possible and keeping that in tandem with the animal's health and well-being. It's important that if we're able to achieve more efficient gains, then ultimately in the marketplace that means the most efficiently produced product that can be made.
One aspect too nutritionists always consider is how much feed does an animal actually eat every day, and how much then do they actually transmit that into actual growth rate. In pigs, as example, for a finishing pig between 50 and its market weight at about 280 pounds, it'll consume anywhere between 6 to 7 pounds of feed every day. But it also takes 3 pounds of feed to put on every 1 pound of weight gain that it has. So oftentimes finishing pigs gain about 2 pounds a day, which translates into if they ate 6 pounds, they're actually going to put on 2. Feedlot cattle are ruminant animals that have a different digestive system, are a little less efficient. In fact, it takes about 5.5 to 6 pounds of feed to put on 1 pound of gain in their particular case. Now poultry, they're the ones that are the most efficient. They actually need somewhere between 1.5 to 1.7 pounds of feed to put on 1 pound of actual gain. And so again, our different species involve different levels of feed needed to put on the different rates of gain during those finishing stages. Now, a different side is our dairy industry. It isn't our goal of dairy cows to ultimately be for meat. They're the ones that are producing the milk that we consume. In fact, the requirements of a dairy cow go up substantially during lactation because of the heavy demands that they put on for the amount of milk that they actually produce on a daily basis. We do not want to over-formulate, as we call it, or provide excess nutrition to an animal. And there's a couple reasons we do that. Not only is it meet the needs of that animal, it's more economical for the producer and ultimately the consumer that we feed the specific diets that meet the needs at that time. But also from a sustainability side, we do not want to feed excess nutrients such as the minerals and protein when it's not needed. Because as an animal grows during the finishing stage, it simply requires less of it in the diet because they eat more. As an animal gets older, it simply eats more, so we don't have to have as much in the diet, or it'll be consuming more than what it actually needs. And if it consumes more than it needs, it'll excrete that, and then we have to have that part of our manure management plan that we go ahead and apply to the land as a fertilizer. But we want to make sure we're minimizing that excretion to not have excess that we have to then apply. Livestock producers fall under a set of rules where they must they must apply that manure at agronomic rates and not over-apply the manure that would cause a runoff or cause environmental harm. So in fact, in Kansas, the Kansas Department of Health and Environment would be involved in the regulation of livestock producers. Livestock producers of certain sizes have official permits, not only in the state, but a federal permit that comes as well. And they must maintain all records for all manure management practices and disposal and be also part of inspections where the Kansas Department of Health and Environment actually comes to the farm. They come to the farm every 1 to 2 years and inspect the practices going on. So in fact, that becomes the regulation portion of livestock operations as it relates to nutrition of what actually wasn't utilized in the diet and excreted by the animals.
How does nutrition impact animal health?
One of the differences between how animals consume food and how humans consume food each day is that in humans, we often have a wide variety of different foods that we consume over the course of the day. And those different foods may or may not, as at the end of the day, may or may not met our nutritional needs for every vitamin, every mineral, as an example. Now, livestock, it's different. We actually know, again, through science, through the research that's been conducted over several decades, how much vitamin A, how much vitamin E, how much zinc, how much copper that animal at its given life stage needs on a daily basis. And because we know that through the science, through the land-grant system, through the United States Department of Agriculture research scientists, we can formulate diets that contain those levels that are needed on a daily basis because those animals are fed a single complete diet in many cases. So it's like we include a multivitamin of all the vitamins and minerals in that feed daily to those animals, and we know exactly that they consumed it and that they are getting their needs met every day. When we have good nutrition, where those animals are going to be healthier and their welfare is going to continue to be improved. There is a National Academy of Sciences. It's a nonprofit, independent organization that helps organize nutrient requirements of the different classes of livestock. We call it the National Research Council. It's a group of scientists that get together that put together nutritional requirements or recommendations for all classes of livestock, and they do a publication about every 10 years for every species. That is what we fall back on in terms of a general recommendation or needs of that particular animal. One issue that does get raised when in the nutrition of livestock is also antibiotics that can be used in the ration as well. Historically, antibiotics were used more frequently if we go back several decades into trying to keep pigs healthy on a routine basis. Part of that had to do with how we housed and how we house pigs today. I'm from a farm in rural South Dakota where I grew up with a number of pigs, and it was very common as those pigs were outside, we had to perform more treatment of animals to keep them healthy based on the environment that they were provided in. As we've moved to today's housing of pigs, which is generally indoors, we provide a much more controlled environment for those animals to live in. And while we've done that, we've improved many of the health aspects of pigs as well. If we look at the number of diseases and the types, we've really decreased that over the last several decades. So while we do use antibiotics when pigs do become sick, and it's primarily in younger animals, and that's, if you think through that, it's very much the same in human medicine as well. Our children are often become easier to become sick and pick up bugs when they're at school and other places, and what we do as adults, as our immunity as adults is better. The same happens in pigs and other livestock as well. And so while we use targeted use when animals do become sick, it is not routine just to include antibiotics in all diets at all. In fact, we just do that when pigs or animals become sick, and to target the use to limit it, so we do have good antibiotics when the animals are sick. And also, as producers, we feel the responsibility to produce as high quality a product as we can. We follow the label and directions of antibiotics, so there is not the concern, or should not be the concern, of potential carryover into meat products, because we produce a safe product that is free of antibiotics. And in fact, when animals are sent to slaughter, large amount of testing goes in to make sure that producers did use antibiotics effectively and correctly, that they're not in the residue or be part of the meat or parts of the product that the animals then are consumed by consumers.
What is the future of animal nutrition?
Almost anybody can become an animal dietitian or a nutritionist. Generally, students that have a love for animal agriculture, after they achieve their 4-year degree in animal sciences, or decide that they do not want to go on to veterinary school, may look at the opportunities to work as a nutritionist. And so I've seen in my career people from both coasts, from foreign countries, anybody who sees an opportunity that they want to participate in helping to evaluate animal diets and helping to have an impact on the diet to keep it healthy is such a thing that can be done.
The evolution of a career in nutrition has certainly changed over the last several decades in the livestock field. In fact, as we continue to go forward, we need nutritionists that are more specialized in one specific species than in the past, where many nutritionists had some knowledge over many species. In fact, many nutritionists historically have known something about pigs, chickens, horses, and cattle. While that's still true today, as we go forward, more producers that have specialized within single species rather than having a farm with multiple species really demand a nutritionist that's more specialized in that species of livestock that they are raising themselves.
There has been an evolution of nutritionists over the last 30, 40 years. Many of the nutritionists in the feedlot world, as a case in point, have evolved with the development of the commercial feeding industry. Many of the nutritionists that I have known over the years started out in academia as professors and teachers, purveyors of information in the university environment, and gradually evolved into providing full services to large animal feeding clients. That has happened as well in the poultry and certainly in the swine industry as well, as many of these small farms have gotten larger over time to take care of animals under total confinement and to meet their needs in the means most efficient and economical. Many of these firms have employed full-time nutritionists and people that call on their facilities to meet their needs. And into the future, I've seen many feedlot nutritionists, as a case in point, who are now doing nutritional work for cow-calf producers and certainly for stocker operators, people that grow cattle after the cows are weaned from their calves. Those calves are taken care of at that stage of their life as well.
So we see more nutritionists going out and the demands are for more nutritionists to have their master's in that specific area or their doctorate training in swine nutrition, ruminant nutrition, equine nutrition to provide that extra level of expertise, and that way they can focus more of their time to keep those producers not only to manage the nutrition of that operation better, but also to be more profitable, because as they continue to develop more expertise, they have a greater understanding of the economics and long-term sustainability of those operations in many cases.
That wraps up this episode of Real Ag. Remember, you can see every episode of this series by going to SmokyHillsTV.org. Until next time, I'm Kyle Bauer, and this has been Real Ag.
Production of Real Ag is made possible by
Servitech has been helping producers across the Midwest make the planet more productive since 1975. We are proud sponsors of Real Ag, helping tell the story of how your food makes it to your plate.
The Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by farmers.